When is it the first time that you felt extremely perplexed at what life throws at you? Usually it happens when we are teenagers. That's the first time when we experience our first internal calamities. And there are some exceptions, but during that time you kind of feel that you are challenged, and your perception of the world can be shattered, because what we have been brought up with is not always suitable, although those who have educated us have had the best intentions. Everybody's flawed, and so we could feel that there is no meaning to all of this, and that it's difficult and there's no point to keep going, or that the traditional values, meaning money, prestige, are not that important. But you need to kind of feel disillusioned utterly and totally, at least once. After that happens, you kind of learn by experience that there's no point in achieving any goal unless you enjoy the journey. Because at the end of the day, there is no absolute meaning to all of this. And you kind of need to learn how to navigate this universe by yourself. And ultimately you choose what to believe in and what you project outside of you. Because you know how they say that as above as below, and the without is within. For this cosmos is kind of absurd, and I'm not saying it in a pessimistic way, because once you realize this, you get a sense of freedom, and you feel like most of the societal burdens that you have been carrying on lose their weight. Of course, you cannot get rid of them totally, because they come back as a result of our conditioning, but still we can have some moments of satori, as they used to say in the Japanese Buddhism, meaning instances of revelation that comes in an intuitive way from within. So even if you feel dejected, you have to rely on your built-in survival mechanisms. And first of all, this is the ego. And you need to learn how to tune it and how to perfect it and adapt it to our modern world, when the threats that we are facing are mostly psychological instead of physical. So we need to learn how to master our mind, and I believe it's important to just find out what you like to do. Although you must keep in mind that you must make some concessions without which you cannot survive. But that doesn't mean that if you are doing it, your existence is losing its spontaneous dimension. It's a very interesting process of balancing between discipline and intuition, sort of, during which your mature self and your inner child learn how to coexist and evolve together. So yeah, it's simple, but first of all you must learn how to do things for yourself, which doesn't mean that you must be selfish, because at the end of the day, all our actions are a result of our desire to get rid of suffering. Everything, I believe. And so at the end of the day, you need to discover what works out best for you and stick with it. I'm not saying it's not challenging. A practical step that you can do is to start, if you haven't already, to practice some sports without expecting miracles, because if your body is in good shape, then your mind will start to feel better. But don't expect fast results. That doesn't mean also that you cannot be happy without doing exercises, but it's one step forward, and it can help a little bit to insert or to let some discipline creep into your daily routine, and that has an overall good, helpful impact on you as a person who is striving to improve yourself. And in this way, when life throws some obstacle at you, you are more capable to face it. You should discover, that sort of self-sustaining capacity that we all have, because when we are little, we play and we just lose ourselves in the process, and we don't have a goal, but we are enjoying it. Of course, mature life has its vicissitudes, but that doesn't mean that you cannot reignite the sort of joy that comes from within and doesn't have always an end, Of course, you're not going to succeed 100%, never, but that's part of the process, and you must remember that you shouldn't be too hard on yourself. So if you practice little by little, you are able to make it when the opportunity arises. But in order to do that, you need to have a sort of holistic approach, and primarily accept yourself with your flaws, because if you are constantly trying to find meaning, you might get disappointed, because we are just chasing illusions. However, that doesn't mean that if you say that life doesn't have an external objective meaning, that everything is useless, because even when I am claiming that I don't believe in meaning, and I think that our existence is absurd, I'm also attributing a certain meaning to it, a certain connotation, because our words, even though we might use them in an abstract way, and even when we are talking gibberish, are never totally devoid of content. And so even the idea that life doesn't have a higher end is also a way to make sense of it. So it's a sort of paradox, and if that works for you, then it's cool, because I don't understand when people say that, it's too pessimistic. I'm not pessimistic. It's just that if you think of it logically and realize that we are just a little speck in this overwhelmingly big and cold universe, it comes to reason that one might arrive to the conclusion that we are not as important as we might think, and that our thirst for logic comes from our instinct to survive, because when you have information, you are not as afraid as we usually are of what might come. And that's why humans are prone to gathering information, you know. It might become an addiction, so to speak. Because even if our mental capacities are limited and flawed to a certain extent, we still manage to find our way and function in this three-dimensional material veil of Maya. So when you think of it this way, it's kind of liberating and you know, a little bit crazy, but you need that in order to find peace. Otherwise, if you follow always the prescriptions of our society and the principles that we are taught to follow, we end up miserable, frustrated, and sad, although not always. There are exceptions. If you thrive in such an environment, then that's okay. But even in these situations, you can still balance it out. So yeah, my advice would be to stop looking for a meaning if you still feel the desire to do it, and accept it. If you are religious, then that's wonderful. It means that you don't need to search any longer, and I'm very happy for you. If you are not, then you know, focus on yourself and don't judge anyone, because we are just vulnerable animals who try to survive, and if you take it too seriously, the existence can crush you at times, and so it's better to stay chill. So yeah, I'll conclude this video here. Let me know in the comments what you think about it and what is your system of beliefs, if provided you have one. If not, then that's also an opinion. So I will be glad to read your feedback.